The sun was sinking low across the dusty plains, painting the sky in streaks of gold and copper. Inside a lonely homestead on the edge of the Wyoming frontier, a man named Colton Reeves sat at his rough-hewn table, nursing the last of his coffee. He was a man of few words, hardened by years of backbreaking work and a life carved out of nothing but grit and sweat. His neighbors knew him as the cowboy who kept to himself, the one who never complained and never asked for help. He liked it that way, or at least he thought he did. But fate, as the frontier had a way of proving, often had other plans. That evening, Colton heard the faint clatter of wagon wheels and voices carried on the wind. It was rare to hear much of anything out there, other than the calls of coyotes or the lowing of cattle. Curious, he stepped outside, tugging the brim of his hat against the sun. Down the dirt road, he spotted a small group gathered near the Parker homestead, his nearest neighbors, though still a good mile off. And standing near the front gate was a woman, alone, frightened, and clutching a small carpet bag as if it were her last possession on earth. Her dress, though plain, was neat, and her dark hair caught the glow of the sunset. She was a stranger, and in these parts, strangers always carried a story. Later, he would learn her name was Clara. She had traveled halfway across the country under promise of a marriage that would never be. Her intended, Thomas Parker, had sent for her as a mail-order bride, only to decide when she arrived that he'd changed his mind. Some said he had another woman in town. Others whispered he had no intention of marrying anyone at all, just wanted to see if a girl would come all that way. Whatever the reason, Clara was left abandoned, humiliated, and stranded in a land that had no mercy for the unprepared. Colton watched as the Parkers turned their backs, leaving her with nowhere to go. Something deep in his chest stirred, a mixture of anger, pity, and something he couldn't quite name. He knew he should stay out of it, that a woman's troubles weren't his to solve. But as Clara stood alone in the fading light, her eyes darting around with fear she tried to hide, Colton made a decision that would change both their lives. He walked toward her, boots crunching against the dry earth, and tipped his hat. "Ma'am," he said, his voice steady but gentle, "looks like you've been dealt a hard hand. If you've nowhere else to go, you can stay at my place till you figure things out." Clara's eyes lifted to meet his, wide with surprise. She opened her mouth as if to speak, then closed it again, as though words had abandoned her too. Finally, she whispered, "Why would you help me? You don't even know me." Colton shrugged slightly. "Out here, we help folks in need. Besides, seems to me you've had enough doors slammed in your face for one day." For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then, with the faintest nod, Clara clutched her bag tighter and followed him back across the fields. Neither knew what lay ahead, but both understood this much. Life on the frontier was about survival, and sometimes survival began with the kindness of a stranger. What neither of them expected was that survival would turn into companionship, and companionship into something far greater, something as wild and untamed as the land itself, love.